There are places in these mountains where the maps stop telling the truth. I learned that the hard way. The lines on the paper say one thing, the land says another. The trails curl back on themselves. The ridges look the same from every angle, and the people who live at the bottom of those mountains do not go up into them after dark. Not for money, not for a dare, not for anything. I did not know that yet. None of us did. We were 6 men with new boots and old confidence, and we thought the worst thing waiting for us up there was a sprained ankle. It started as a simple plan. A long trek through a remote stretch of the southern Appalachians. 4 days in, 4 days out. We wanted distance. We wanted silence. We wanted the kind of tired that only comes from carrying everything you need on your own back. James had organized the whole thing. James Smith was the kind of man who read every guidebook twice and laminated his maps. He had hiked half the country. If James said a trail was safe, you believed him, because James did not say things he could not back up. The rest of us trusted him completely. Michael Williams came because he never said no to a hard walk, and because he never believed in anything he could not touch. Robert Brown came because he was quiet and steady and good in a crisis, the man you wanted beside you when something went wrong. David Jones came because David could not stand to be left out of anything, and because he made us laugh when our legs were burning. And William Garcia came because William knew these particular mountains better than the rest of us combined. His grandmother had grown up in a hollow not far from where we planned to start. That left me. I was the one who had pushed for somewhere truly remote. I wanted to be out of cell range. I wanted to be somewhere that did not feel managed and mowed and safe. I got my wish. I have regretted it every single night since. We drove in 2 trucks from the highway, down a county road, then down a gravel road, then down a road that was barely a road at all. The trees closed in around us. The light went green and dim. By the time we reached the little store at the base of the trailhead, it felt like we had driven backward through time. The store was a low wooden building with a tin roof and a single gas pump out front. The pump looked like it had not worked in years. A hand-painted sign over the door said goods and nothing else. We went inside to top up on water and a few snacks before the long climb. The man behind the counter was old. His skin was the color and texture of a dried apple. He watched us come in without smiling. He watched us pile our bottles and bags of jerky on the counter. He rang us up slowly, 1 item at a time, and he did not say a word until James asked him about the trail. "We are heading up the old ridge route," James said, "looping out past the high meadow and back down the eastern fork. You know it?" The old man stopped. His hand went still over the register. He looked up at James, and then he looked at the rest of us, one face at a time, like he was counting us, like he was memorizing us. "John Johnson," he said, and put out his hand. James shook it. We all gave our names. The old man nodded at each one. When we were done, he leaned on the counter and lowered his voice, even though there was no one else in the store. "You boys want to go up there?" he said. It was not a question. "That is the plan," said David, grinning. 4 days. We will be fine." John Johnson did not grin back. "You camp low," he said. "You hear me? You stay below the meadow. Anything that takes you up past the rock face, you turn around. You do not sleep up there, not on the high ground, not by the old chimney stones." David laughed a little. "What is up there? Bears?" The old man looked at him for a long moment. "Bears I would not warn you about," he said. "Bears keep to themselves. There is something else lives up high. My granddaddy called it by a name. I will not say the name in my own store, but you will know it if you hear it. You will hear it before you ever see it. And once you hear it, it has already heard you." The store went very quiet. Outside, the wind moved through the trees and made a sound like the whole forest breathing in. Michael could not help himself. He was smiling the way he always smiled when somebody talked about ghosts. "And what does it sound like exactly?" John Johnson did not smile. "Like a woman screaming," he said. "Like a woman being torn in half. You will think someone needs help. You will want to run toward it. Do not. That is how it calls you. That is how it has always called the foolish ones." We thanked him. We took our bags. As we were leaving, the old man caught my arm. His grip was stronger than I expected. He pulled me close and spoke so the others could not hear. "You are the one who wanted to come out here," he said. I do not know how he knew that. I can see it on you. So you listen. When it goes wrong, and it will go wrong, you do not stop for anybody. You go down, you always go down. It does not like the low water. Remember that. The low water. Then he let go of me and turned away. And that was the last thing he said. I told myself he was a lonely old man who liked to frighten tourists. I told myself it was a local legend, the kind of thing every backwoods town keeps to make the outsiders nervous. I told myself a lot of things. I have stopped telling myself any of them. We shouldered our packs in the gravel lot. The trail rose into the trees ahead of us, a narrow brown line going up into the green dark. William stood looking at it for a moment with a strange expression. My grandmother had a word for this place, he said quietly. She would not let us come near it as kids. What word? I asked. He shook his head. It does not matter. Let us walk. So we walked. We climbed up out of the world we knew and into the one that was waiting. The store fell away behind us. The road fell away. The last bar of signal on my phone died around the second switchback, and I remember feeling something close to joy at that. Free, I thought. We are finally free of all of it. The trail was beautiful that first hour. I will give it that. Old-growth trees with trunks wider than a man could reach around. Moss on every stone. Light coming down in long gold ribbons through the canopy. A stream somewhere off to our left, talking to itself over the rocks. We were laughing again by then. David was telling a story about a fishing trip gone wrong. James was naming the trees. Robert walked at the back, quiet, watching the woods the way he watched everything. By noon we had climbed maybe 4 miles. We stopped to eat by the stream. The water was cold and clean and tasted of stone. We were happy. I want to be very clear about that. There was a moment, sitting on a flat gray rock with my boots off and my feet in that freezing water, when I was as happy as I have ever been in my life. It was William who noticed the first wrong thing. He had gone a little way upstream to refill his bottle. He came back without it. His face had changed. He told us to come and look. On the far bank of the stream just above the waterline, someone had laid out a row of dead animals. Not thrown, not dropped, laid out. 3 rabbits, a fox, and something that might have been a young deer, though it was hard to tell because so much of it was gone. They were arranged in a straight line, head to tail, perfectly even, and every one of them had been opened down the belly and emptied out, neat as a glove turned inside out. No flies. That is what I remember most. There should have been flies. There were none. Some kind of animal did that, Michael said, but his voice had lost its smile. Animals do not make a line, Robert said quietly. He was right. They do not. We stood there looking at it for a long time. The stream kept talking. The light kept falling. And somewhere far up the mountain, so faint I told myself I had imagined it, something made a sound, a long, rising, falling sound, almost like a voice, almost like a woman. We packed up fast after that. Nobody said why. We just did. We made camp that first night well below the meadow, the way the old man had told us. I wanted on the record that we listened to him at the start. We picked a flat shelf of ground beside the stream, with good clear sight lines and a ring of stones for a fire. James checked it against his map. Robert checked the perimeter. We did everything right. The trouble is that doing everything right does not matter when the thing you are dealing with does not follow any of the rules you know. We built a good fire as the light went. The forest at night up there is a different country. The trees become walls. The sky narrows to a thin band of stars straight overhead. The sounds change. In the day the woods are full of birds and wind and water. At night they go quiet in a way that feels held, like a breath that is not being let out. We ate. We talked. David tried to bring up the line of dead animals, and James shut it down, said it was probably a bobcat caching food, said animals do strange things and we should not work ourselves up. Michael agreed loudly, too loudly. I noticed that. Michael was the kind of man who got louder the more frightened he became, and he would have died before he admitted he was frightened of anything. William did not say much. He sat close to the fire with his knees drawn up, and he kept looking out into the dark beyond the light. Around midnight, the screaming started. I had been half asleep. It brought me straight up out of my bag with my heart slamming against my ribs. It came from up the mountain, somewhere above us, and the old man had described it exactly. It was a woman. It had to be a woman. The sound rose and broke and rose again, A terrible high tearing cry, full of pain, full of fear, the sound of a person being hurt very badly, very far from any help. We were all awake in an instant. David was already on his feet. "Someone is up there," he said. "Someone is hurt. We have to go." He took 2 steps toward the trees before James grabbed him. "No," James said. "Listen to me. Listen." We listened. And that was when I understood what the old man had meant. The sound was wrong. It went on too long. No human lungs could make a cry last that long without a breath. It rose and fell in a pattern, almost a rhythm, the same shape over and over, like a recording played again and again, and it did not move. A hurt person would thrash, would crawl, would change position. This stayed in exactly one place, high above us, calling down into the dark, calling. We did not go. God help me, we did not go. And I have never been more grateful for James Smith and his cold, steady head than I was in that moment. The screaming went on for what felt like an hour. Then, all at once, it stopped. Not faded. Stopped. As if a switch had been thrown. The silence after it was worse than the sound. Nobody slept again that night. We kept the fire high. We sat with our backs to it and faced outward, and we watched the dark, and the dark watched back. Once, near the gray edge of dawn, I saw 2 points of light far up the slope, low to the ground, side by side, pale green. Steady. I told myself they were a trick of the dying fire reflecting off dew. They did not move for a long time. And then they were gone, and I never saw the moment they left. In the morning we found the tracks. They came down out of the trees on the far side of the stream, crossed the open ground not 30 feet from our camp, and went back up into the dark. Robert found them first. He was the best of us at reading the ground. He crouched over them for a long time without speaking, and when he stood up his face had gone gray. "Tell me these are bear tracks," Michael said. "They're not bear tracks," Robert said. They were not. I have seen bear tracks. These were nothing like them. They were long and narrow, 4 toes spread wide, with deep punctures at the front that could only be claws that did not retract, like a cat. A house cat makes a print the size of a coin. These were the size of a dinner plate, and the stride between them, the distance from one print to the next, was longer than any of us were tall. "A cougar," James said. "It has to be a cougar." "There are no cougars in these mountains," William said quietly. "Not for 100 years. They were all killed off." "Then a cougar came back," James said. "It happens. Animals move." Robert was still looking at the tracks. "James," he said, "walk with me a second." He led James along the line of prints to where they crossed a patch of soft mud near the water. And there, in the mud, the pattern changed. For 3 steps, the tracks were not 4, they were 2, as if the thing had risen up and walked on its hind legs the way a man walks, before dropping back down to all 4s and vanishing into the trees. James looked at that for a long time. Then he stood up and brushed off his knees and said, in a voice that was trying very hard to be normal, "We are going to have a good breakfast, and then we are going to talk about whether we keep going or turn around." We kept going. I want you to understand that I argued to turn around. So did Robert. But James pointed out that turning around meant a full day walking back the way we had come, much of it after dark, and David pointed out that going forward and looping back down the eastern fork was actually shorter, and Michael said he would be damned if a stray cat was going to ruin his trip, and William said nothing at all, which I should have paid more attention to. There is one thing I left out, because it shames me. Before the vote, William took me aside. He led me a little way up the trail, out of earshot of the others, and he stood close and spoke very low. "My grandmother had a word for this mountain," he said. "I told you that, at the bottom. I did not tell you the word. I will tell you now. She called it the place that keeps, not the place that kills, the place that keeps. She would not say more than that, no matter how I asked. But she made me promise, when I was a boy, that I would never come up here. I promised. And here I am." He looked back down the trail, the way we had come, then up the trail, the way we were about to go. "I think we should turn around. I have a feeling I cannot explain and cannot defend, but I have learned to trust the feelings I cannot explain. They are older than I am. Will you stand with me if I say it to the others? Will you back me?" And I said yes. I meant it when I said it. But when the moment came and James laid out the reasons, and the reasons were good and practical and sensible the way reasons always are. I did not stand with William. I said nothing. I let the vote carry us up. I have wondered ever since whether one more voice would have turned us back, whether 4 men would be alive today if I had only kept faith with the man who had the courage to be afraid out loud. I will never know. That is its own kind of punishment. So we voted, and we went up. Toward the meadow, toward the high ground, toward the old chimney stones the man named John Johnson had told us never to sleep near. That was our great mistake, not coming to the mountain, going up it. The trail steepened that second day. The big trees thinned out and gave way to twisted, stunted things that grew sideways out of the rock. The air got thinner and colder. We climbed through a long band of rhododendron so thick we had to push through it sideways, and on the other side of it we came out into a different world. The meadow. It was a wide, flat shoulder of the mountain, maybe a mile across, ringed by dark trees. The grass was high and gold and bent flat in places, in long swaths, as if something large had been moving through it. At the far edge, half swallowed by brush, stood a chimney. Just a chimney, made of stacked fieldstone, standing alone where a cabin had burned or rotted away a century ago. The chimney stones, the old man had said, do not sleep by the chimney stones. We did not mean to. But the meadow was the only flat open ground for miles, and the light was already going, and we were exhausted, and there was a small spring of clean water bubbling up near the old chimney. Practical reasons. There are always practical reasons. That is how it gets you. It does not need to be subtle. It only needs you to be tired and reasonable. We made camp by the spring, 50 yards from the chimney. And it was there, while we set up the tents, that William finally told us what his grandmother had called this place. He had found something. Behind the chimney, tucked into a dry recess where 2 stones met, wrapped in oilcloth gone hard and black with age, there was a notebook, a trapper's notebook, the kind men used to keep, full of dates and weather and tallies of pelts. The last quarter of it was different. The handwriting got worse. The entries got stranger. William read parts of it aloud to us as the fire caught and the dark came down. The man who wrote it had been named Joseph. There was no last name, just Joseph, written at the top of the first page in a careful hand. He had come up to the meadow to trap, the way men had for generations, and then his animals began to disappear from his lines. Not stolen by another trapper. Taken. Opened and emptied, the way we had seen the rabbits by the stream, laid out in rows. He wrote about the screaming. He wrote about the smell, a smell of rot and wet ash that came on the wind before the thing came. He wrote about the eyes in the dark, low to the ground, pale green, that did not blink. Then he wrote down a story, one he said an old Cherokee man had told him years before, about what lived in these mountains. I will tell it the way William read it, as close as I can remember. Long ago, the men of a village would gather at night around the fire to speak of the hunt. This talk was sacred. It was for men only, and it was forbidden to women because the medicine in those words was strong and dangerous. One woman could not bear to be kept out. She wanted to know what the men said. So she took the skin of a mountain cat and wore it over her body, and she crept close to the fire in the dark to listen. But the men had their own medicine, and they felt her there. A medicine man among them found her and saw what she had done. And for breaking the law, for spying in the skin of a beast, he cursed her. He cursed her to stay forever as she was in that moment, caught half between woman and cat. She would walk the high places alone for all time, neither one thing nor the other, hungry and grieving and full of rage. She would scream in the voice she had lost, and she would hunt the kind of foolish, prideful people who go where they have been told not to go. The Cherokee had a name for her. Joseph wrote it down phonetically, and William read it, but I will not write it here the same way the old man would not say it in his store. Some words feel like they call the thing that owns them. The English speakers who came later gave her a plainer name. They called her the Wampus Cat. When William finished reading, nobody spoke. The fire popped. The wind moved the high grass with a long, dry hiss. It is a story, Michael said at last. It is a story old men tell to scare each other. You believe it because it is dark and we are tired. Read the last entry, Robert said. William turned to the final page. The handwriting there was almost not handwriting at all. It said, and I have never forgotten it. It is outside the cabin now. It has been outside for 3 nights. It does not try to come in anymore. It just waits. It knows I have to come out for water. I am writing this so that whoever finds it will not do what I did. Go down. Do not go up. It cannot follow you to the low water. Go down. Go down to the low water. The same words the old man had pressed into my arm in his store. Michael laughed, but it was a thin and ugly laugh. So the trapper went crazy up here alone and starved to death and wrote himself a ghost story. That is what happened. That is all that happened. That was when we smelled it. It came on the wind from the direction of the chimney. Rot and wet ash. Exactly as Joseph had written. It rolled over the camp thick and sudden, and it was so strong that David turned and was sick into the grass. We were all on our feet. James had the big flashlight. He swung it toward the chimney and the trees behind it. For 1/2 of 1 second, the beam caught something. I will try to describe it, though my mind has spent every night since trying to convince me I did not see it. It was crouched at the edge of the trees, low and long, bigger than any cat has a right to be. The size of a horse, but built wrong, built lean and wrong. The fur was the color of dead leaves. And the face that turned toward the light was not the face of an animal. It was too flat. The eyes were set too far forward and too wide apart, and they were pale green, and they caught the beam and threw it back at us like 2 coins of cold fire. And the mouth was open, and it was far too wide, and inside it there were too many teeth, and they were the teeth of a thing that was made for one purpose only. Then James dropped the light. He did not mean to. His hand simply opened, and when he snatched it up again and swung it back, there was nothing there, only the chimney, and the trees, and the high grass moving. We did not sleep at all that night. We built the fire into a roaring thing. We sat shoulder to shoulder with our backs to the flames, and all night long, just at the edge of the firelight, the grass moved in slow circles around us, around and around. Patient, in no hurry at all. It had all the time in the world. We were the ones who were running out. We decided to leave at first light. There was no vote this time. There was no argument. Even Michael, with all his loud certainty, packed his bag in the gray dawn without a word. The plan was simple. Go back down the way we had come. Forget the loop. Forget the Eastern Fork. Just down. Down to the stream. Down to the truck. Down to the world. Go down. The words were in my head like a drumbeat by then. Go down to the low water. We left the meadow as the sun was coming up behind the ridge. The smell of rot was gone. The grass was still. In the clean morning light, it was almost possible to believe we had frightened ourselves with an old man's notebook and a trick of a flashlight. Almost. But none of us looked back at the chimney as we left it, and I think that tells the truth better than anything I could say. We made good time at first. We were moving fast, faster than was safe on that steep ground, but the fear was a fine fuel and it carried us. We dropped down through the band of rhododendron. We found the trail on the other side, and then the trail did something it should not have been able to do. It split. There was no fork in the trail on the way up. I am certain of that. James was certain of it. His map showed no fork there. But there it was, the path dividing around a great gray boulder, one branch going left and one going right, both of them looking equally worn, equally real. It was not here, James said. He was staring at his map and then at the ground and then at the map again. This is not on the map. There is no junction here. Maps are wrong sometimes, David said. My maps are not wrong, James said, and there was something close to panic under his voice for the first time. We took the left branch, because the left branch seemed to head downhill more sharply, and down was all that mattered. We walked it for an hour. It curved and dipped and climbed a little and dipped again, and then, ahead of us through the trees, we saw a great gray boulder and a trail that split around it. One branch left and one branch right. The same boulder, the same fork. We had walked in a circle without ever turning. The land does not work that way. I know it does not. And yet there it was. Michael started laughing. It was not good laughter. It went on too long. Robert put a hand on his shoulder and he stopped. We tried the right branch. We marked the boulder with a deep slash of orange spray paint from David's pack, the kind hunters use, so that there could be no mistake. We walked the right branch for an hour and a half, downhill, always downhill, watching our compasses point steadily south, the way they should, and we came back to the boulder, to the orange slash. from the same direction we had left it. It was William who found the pack. While the rest of us stood frozen and arguing in low voices, William had stepped a few feet into the brush at the edge of the path. He called us over. His voice had gone flat and small. In the undergrowth, half buried in leaf litter and grown through with moss, there was a backpack. An old one. The fabric had faded to no color at all. The zippers had rusted into place. It had been there a long time, years. Robert worked one of the side pockets open with the point of his knife. Inside, sealed in a plastic sleeve gone yellow and brittle, there was an identification card. The name on it was Richard Miller. He had been a backcountry ranger. There was a date on the card, and the date was 9 years gone. We had all heard the story in some vague way, the way you hear these things and forget them. A ranger who had gone up alone to look into a report of trouble on the high trails, and who had never come back down. The search had lasted weeks. They had found nothing at all. It had become one of those quiet mountain mysteries that the local people know and the wider world forgets. And here was his pack, set down neat in the brush, the straps unbuckled and laid open, beside a boulder that did not exist on any map. Set down, unbuckled. I did not understand the meaning of that yet. I would understand it soon, and then I would never be able to stop understanding it. Robert put the card back into the pocket. He did it gently, the way you would close the eyes of the dead. None of us spoke for a long moment. There was nothing to say that would not make the fear worse. Here was a man who had known these mountains, who had every skill the 6 of us lacked between us, who had come up alone and prepared and capable, and the mountain had swallowed him whole and left only his pack to be found 9 years on, by strangers who should have turned back at the little store at the bottom of the trail. He knew what he was doing, Robert said quietly. He was a professional, and it still took him. Then what chance do we have? David said. His voice was climbing. What chance do we have if it took a ranger who knew every inch of this place? We do not know anything. We are going to end up like him, a rusted bag in the weeds for somebody to find in 9 years. Stop it, James said. David, stop. But David could not stop. I watched it happen in his face, the same loosening I would later come to know so well, the thing the fear does when it finds the weakest seam in a man and works it slowly open. That is when David broke. He started to run. He just turned and ran, off the trail, straight downhill through the trees, screaming that he was not going to die up here, that he was getting out, that the rest of us could do what we wanted. We yelled after him. Robert went after him. But David had always been the fastest of us, and fear had made him faster, and he was gone into the green before Robert had taken 10 steps. We heard him for a little while. We heard his pack crashing through the brush, getting fainter. We heard him shout once, far off. A single ragged word we could not make out, and then we heard the screaming start. It was the same scream from the first night. The woman's scream, rising and breaking and rising. But it was not coming from up the mountain anymore. It was coming from below us, from the direction David had run, from the low ground. It went on and on, that terrible tearing cry, and woven through it now, underneath it, was something new, a sound like a man trying to scream and not being able to. Then both sounds stopped at the same instant. Robert came back to us white and shaking. We 4 stood frozen on the trail by the orange boulder. We did not go down after David. I will carry that for the rest of my life. We did not go down after David, because we all knew, in the deepest part of ourselves, that there was no David to go down after anymore. There was only the thing that was using his voice now, calling us, the way the old man had said it would. That is how it calls you. That is how it is always called the foolish ones. We stay together, James said. His voice was steady, but his hands were not. We stay on the trail. We do not split up. We do not run. We walk, and we keep walking, and we get through this. Through this, Michael repeated. He was staring down the slope where David had gone. Through this. James, there is no through. We are going in circles. The trail is eating us. We are already dead. We just have not lain down yet. James grabbed him by the front of his jacket. We are not dead. Look at me. We are not dead, and we are not going to be, and the way we make sure of that is we keep our heads. Do you understand me? Michael nodded, but his eyes were wrong. Something had come loose behind them. We started walking again. We took the left branch this time, since the right had failed us. And as we walked, I noticed the smell again. faint at first, then stronger. Rot and wet ash. It was somewhere off in the trees, pacing us. Always just out of sight. Always keeping our speed. We were not lost, I understood then. We were being herded. The trail split where it wanted to split. We went where it wanted us to go. And it was in no hurry, because it had already taken one of us, and it knew it could take the rest whenever it chose. It was simply enjoying the walk. We walked until the light began to fail again, and we had not found the stream, and we had not found the truck, and we had passed the orange boulder one more time before the trail finally, mercifully, stopped circling and let us descend. I do not believe it let us go out of mercy. I believe it was bored of that game and wanted a new one. The ground dropped away steeply, and the trail became a series of switchbacks cut into the side of a deep ravine. Far below, I could hear water. Real running water, more than the little spring. A true stream cutting through the bottom of the gorge. The low water. Something in my chest unlocked at the sound of it. Down. We were finally going down, toward water, toward the only thing the trapper and the old man had both sworn it would not follow us into. But the light was nearly gone, and the switchbacks were treacherous, loose shale that slid underfoot, a long drop on one side. James called a halt on a wide ledge, maybe halfway down. We could not descend that slope in the dark without one of us falling. We would have to wait for morning. We were close. The water was close. We could hear it, but we could not reach it tonight. We did not build a fire. There was no wood on the bare shale ledge, and besides, we understood now that the fire did not keep it away. The fire only let it see us better. We sat in the dark with our backs against the cold rock wall, the four of us pressed together, the drop a few feet in front of us, the running water singing far below. "Tell me about it," James said to William, very quietly in the dark. "The story. Is there anything in the story about how to make it stop, how to kill it, anything?" William was quiet for a moment. "The old people did not talk about killing it," he said. "You do not kill a curse. You avoid the place it lives. You stay away, that is all. That is the whole of the wisdom. Stay away." He laughed, a small broken sound. "We did not stay away. There has to be something," James said. "The water," I said. Both of them said the water. The old man in the store, the trapper in the notebook. "Go down to the low water. It cannot follow. We are almost there. We just have to get down to the stream at first light and follow it out." "And if it is not true?" Michael said from the dark. His voice was flat and strange. "If it is just one more story, just one more thing old frightened men tell each other. We are betting all our lives on a sentence written by a man who starved to death talking to a wall." Nobody answered him, because there was nothing to say. It was all we had. A sentence written by a dead man. We were going to bet our lives on it because it was the only bet left on the table. The smell came around midnight. It rolled up over the lip of the ledge from below, from the direction of the water, which was wrong, which was the one direction it was not supposed to be able to come from. Rot and wet ash, thick enough to taste. And then, from the darkness at the edge of the ledge where the trail came up, we heard it breathing, not screaming. Breathing. A low, wet, heavy sound. In and out, in and out. The breathing of something very large that was very close. I could not see it. The night was total, but I could feel the size of it in the dark, the way you can feel a wall in a black room before you touch it. It was right there, 10 feet away, maybe less. James moved very slowly. He had the flashlight. I heard his thumb find the switch, and I wanted to scream at him not to. "Do not turn it on. I do not want to see." But my throat had locked shut. He turned it on. It was crouched at the head of the trail, blocking our only way down, filling it. In the white beam it was worse than the half-second glimpse at the chimney, because now it held still and let us look. The leaf-colored fur was matted and wet. The body was long and low and wrong in its proportions. Too many joints, too much length between them. And I saw then what Joseph had written, what the old story said. It was caught between two shapes. The hind legs were bent the way a person's legs bend. The front were an animal's. The face, that flat, wide, terrible face with its forward eyes, had something in it that was almost a human face, stretched and ruined and grieving, and that was the most horrible thing of all. Not that it was a monster, that somewhere inside the monster there was the ghost of a woman who had only wanted to know what the men were saying around the fire. Its eyes were on Michael. I do not know why. Maybe because he was the one who had refused to believe in it. Maybe it had heard him all this time calling it a story. Maybe that is what it hunts. The proud ones. The ones who say it is not real. It looked at Michael, and it opened that too wide mouth, and it made the woman scream. But quietly this time, almost gently, a soft, broken, crooning version of that terrible cry, as if it were calling him by a name only he could hear. And Michael stood up. We grabbed for him. James and I both grabbed for him. But he stepped over us, calm as anything, his face slack and his eyes empty, and he walked toward it, toward the thing crouched at the head of the trail. He walked toward it the way you walk toward something you have been looking for your whole life. We could not hold him. He was too strong. All of a sudden, the way frightened men and dreaming men are too strong. He pulled free of James. He pulled free of me, and he walked into the dark past the edge of the flashlight beam, toward the breathing and the smell, and the thing rose up to meet him, and the light could not reach far enough to show us the rest. The scream that came then was Michael's own. It did not last long. I am grateful for that small thing. It did not last long. There were 3 of us left on the ledge when the sun came up. James, Robert, and me. I do not remember most of the rest of that night. I remember the cold. I remember Robert praying under his breath, the same few words over and over. I remember James holding the dead flashlight in both hands and staring at the place where Michael had walked into the dark and not moving, not blinking, for hours. I remember thinking, very clearly and calmly, that I was going to die on this mountain and feeling almost peaceful about it, and then catching myself because I recognized that calm. It was the calm I had seen on Michael's face. It was the thing getting into my head, and I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood, to keep myself sharp, to keep myself angry, because anger I could use and peace would kill me. The thing came back to us twice in the dark. The first time, it did not show itself. It only spoke. From somewhere out past the edge of the ledge, down in the black where the trail went up, a voice came, and the voice was David. It was David exactly, every catch and lift of it. It called to us from the dark, and it said that it had found a way down, that it was fine, that it had only been hurt and frightened, that we should come and help it walk. Come down, the David voice said. Come down. I cannot make it on my own. Please, I am right here. Robert started to rise. I do not think he even knew he was doing it. I pulled him back down hard and held him and put my mouth against his ear and told him, "That is not David. David is gone. That thing is wearing David's voice the way it wears the cat's skin. Do not answer it. Do not answer it." And Robert shuddered all over and went still. And the David voice called a while longer, and then it stopped, the way a man stops when he sees that a trick is not working. The second time, near the deepest part of the night, it came for me. It did not use David. It used my mother. I have not told anyone this part. It used my mother's voice, my mother who has been gone 11 years, and it called my name the way she used to call it up the stairs when I was a boy and supper was ready. Soft, warm, a little tired at the end of a long day. It called my name, and every wall I had built came down at once because there is no defense prepared in any of us against that voice, the first voice, the one that taught us our own name. I stood up. I did not decide to. My body simply rose, the way Michael's had, and I took a step toward the edge, toward the dark, toward the voice that loved me, and I was glad. That is the horror of it that I cannot make anyone understand. I was glad to go. I wanted to go. Every terrible thing fell away, and there was only the voice and the warmth and the simple certainty that on the other side of the dark my mother was waiting and everything was going to be all right. James caught me. He did not say anything clever. He did not reason with me, because there is no reasoning with that. He simply wrapped both his arms around me from behind and locked his hands together and held on, and he was bigger than me and stronger, and he held on while I fought him, while I clawed at his arms and called him names I will not repeat, while I begged him to let me go to her. He held on until the voice stopped. He held on until I came back into myself, shaking and sick and weeping, and then he held on a while longer, until he was sure, and only then did he let me sink down onto the cold stone. "It is not them," he said. His own voice was a ruin. "Whatever it sounds like, it is never them. We hold each other down. That is the rule now. Whoever it calls, the other two hold him. That is how we live through this. We do not let go of each other, no matter what we hear. no matter who it sounds like. We made that promise on the ledge in the dark, the three of us. We held to it. It is the only reason I am alive to tell you any of this. In the end, it was not strength or skill or planning that brought me off that mountain. It was two men who would not let go of me when I begged them to. James kept that promise to me. I could not keep it to him. That is the thing I cannot put down, the thing I carry into every room I enter. When the time came, on the bank of the stream, there was no one left whose turn it was to hold him. I am getting ahead of myself again. My mind tries to reach the end before it has to live through the middle once more. Forgive me. It is hard to tell in a straight line. When the light finally came, gray and thin and beautiful, we found Michael's pack at the edge of the ledge. Just the pack. The straps were not torn or cut. They had been undone, unbuckled, neatly, and set down. He had taken it off before he walked into the dark. He had made himself comfortable for it. There was no blood. There was never any blood with this thing, except the blood of the animals in their neat little rows. It took the people whole, somehow, into the dark, into the high places, and it left their packs behind like a child setting down a toy it has finished with. We did not speak about it. There was nothing to say. We had two choices. Go up, back the way we had come, back toward the meadow and the chimney and the circling trail, or go down, finish the switchbacks, reach the water at the bottom of the ravine, and pray the dead trapper and the old man had told the truth. We went down. The descent in daylight was bad but possible. The shale slid and shifted under our boots. Twice Robert nearly went over the edge and we hauled him back. My hands were torn from grabbing the rock, but we went down, switchback after switchback, the sound of the water growing louder and clearer below us, and with every step a small thin hope grew in my chest that we would reach it, that the water would be a wall the thing could not cross. We were maybe 2 switchbacks from the bottom when the smell came again. It came from above us this time, from the way we had come. I looked back up the slope, and there, picking its way down the switchbacks after us, unhurried, sure-footed where we had stumbled, came the thing. In the daylight it was somehow worse. There was nowhere for the eye to hide from it. It was the color of the dead leaves it moved through, and it flowed down the loose shale like water, like it weighed nothing, like the rules of the mountain did not apply to it. Go, James said. Go, go. Do not look at it. Just go. We went. We half ran, half fell down the last 2 switchbacks. Robert was ahead of me. James was behind. I could hear the shale sliding under the thing as it came, that soft hissing rush, gaining on us. I did not look back again. The old man's voice was in my head. You do not stop for anybody. You go down. You always go down. Robert reached the stream first. He splashed straight into it, up to his knees, and turned, gasping, his arms out, screaming at me to come on, come on, come on. I hit the water a second later. It was so cold it stopped my breath. It came up to my thighs, fast and strong and clean, tumbling white over the rocks. I waded out toward the middle, toward Robert, and we turned together to look back at the bank. James was still on the shore. He had stopped, 3 feet from the water. He had stopped, and he was standing very still, and the thing was right behind him, at the bottom of the slope now, crouched, low, its forward eyes fixed on his back. James, I screamed. James, the water. Get in the water. It is right there. He did not move, and I understood. I saw it in the set of his shoulders. The thing had him the way it had taken Michael. It had crept into his head somewhere in the descent, and now, 3 feet from safety, 3 feet from the water that would have saved him, it had stopped his legs. James, I screamed again. Fight it. 3 steps. 3 steps, that is all. Look at me. Look at the water. 3 steps. For one moment, I thought he heard me. His head turned, just slightly, toward us. Toward the stream. His face was a battlefield. I have never seen a man fight so hard against something with no muscles to push against. He took 1 step. His boot came down at the very edge of the water, and the thing made the woman scream, soft and tender and loving, right behind him. James turned around. He turned to face it, and he stopped fighting, and his shoulders dropped, and I saw the peace come over him, the terrible peace, and he took a step toward it instead, toward the dark-colored shape crouched on the bank. The last thing James Smith ever did was step away from the water that would have saved him, because the thing asked him to, and he could not say no. Robert grabbed me before I could go back for him. He grabbed me and held me in the freezing water while I screamed, and the thing rose up over James on the bank, and then the bank was empty, and there was only the orange light of the morning on the trees and the cold water roaring around our legs. It did not come into the water. It paced the bank, back and forth, its green eyes fixed on the two of us standing in the middle of the stream. It did not put one foot in the water. It tried. I saw it lower its great wrong head toward the surface and pull back, again and again, the way a cat pulls back from a wet floor. The old man had told the truth. The trapper had told the truth. It could not follow us into the low water, but it could wait, and it had all the time in the world. And we could not stand in a freezing mountain stream forever. We followed the stream down. That was the only plan, and it was a good one, the only good one we had. The water flowed downhill. Downhill meant out, and as long as we stayed in the water, or close enough to it that 2 or 3 steps would put us back in, the thing could not take us. So we walked down the middle of that stream, hour after hour, soaked to the waist, our feet going numb, our legs cramping, the cold leaching the strength out of us, and the thing followed us along the bank. It never tried to hide anymore. It paced us through the trees on the right bank, then crossed somewhere ahead and paced us from the left, then back again. Always there, always watching, waiting for one of us to stumble onto dry land, waiting for the cold to do its work. Robert was failing. He was older than me, and the cold takes the older ones first, and he had not stopped shaking for hours. His lips had gone a bad gray-blue color. His words were slurring. I kept him moving. I kept him in front of me where I could watch him. I talked to him constantly, about anything, about nothing, about his kids, about the breakfast we would eat when we got out, about the truck, about home. I do not know if he heard me, but he kept walking. As long as I kept talking, he kept walking. Toward the end of that day, the stream widened and slowed, and the banks dropped lower, and through the trees ahead I saw smoke, a thin gray thread of wood smoke rising into the late light. A cabin. It sat back from the water on the left bank, an old hand-built thing of dark logs with a stone chimney and a porch sagging on one side. A man stood on the porch. He had been watching us come, I think, for some time. He was old, older even than the man in the store, with a long white beard and a heavy coat despite the season, and across his arms he held a rifle. "You are in the water," the old man called out. His voice was rough, like it did not get much use. "Smart, stay there. Do not come up on the bank till I say." "There is something following us," I called back. My voice broke. "There is something in the trees. It took our friends. I know what is following you," the old man said. "I have heard it 3 nights now. Knew it had found somebody. It always finds somebody." He looked past us, into the trees on the far bank, and his old eyes narrowed. "It is there now, right there. You see it?" I looked. For a moment I saw nothing. Then the shape resolved out of the leaves, low and long and patient, the green eyes catching the last light. It was watching the old man now, and the old man was watching it back, and there was no fear in his face at all. Only a deep, old, tired hatred. "You can come up here, by the cabin," the old man said. "I have got the ground salted and the porch is iron underneath. It will not come close to the cabin. Learned that a long time ago. Come up slow. Come straight to the porch. Do not stop. Do not look at it. It will talk to you. It will use a voice you love. Do not listen." We came up out of the water. It was the hardest thing I have ever done, leaving that stream. But Robert could not last another hour in the cold, and the old man and his cabin were the only chance we had. We came up the bank on legs that would barely hold us, and the thing across the water rose and started to flow toward us, and the old man fired his rifle into the air, a flat, hard crack that rolled away down the gorge, and the thing flinched back, not hurt, just startled. Buying us seconds. We made the porch. We fell onto it, and the thing stopped at the edge of the trees, at the edge of whatever the old man had laid down in the ground, and it paced there, and it screamed, and the scream this time was my mother's voice, calling my name, my mother who has been dead 11 years, and I put my hands over my ears, and I did not listen. I did not listen. The old man had said, "Do not listen," and I did not. The old man got us inside. He had a fire going and blankets, and he wrapped Robert in them and put hot water into him. and slowly, slowly, the gray went out of Robert's face, and the shaking eased. The old man's name was Joseph, I asked him. When Robert was settled and the dark had come down and the thing was circling the cabin outside, screaming in the voices of everyone we had ever loved, I asked the old man his name, and he said Joseph, and something cold turned over in my chest. There was a notebook, I said, up by the chimney stones in the meadow. A trapper's notebook, written by a man named Joseph. The old man went still. That was my father's name too, he said quietly, and his father's. We have always been Joseph, the men of my family, far back as anyone counted. My grandfather went up to that meadow to trap when he was young. He never came all the way back. Part of him came back, not all of him. He looked at the fire. I have lived on this mountain my whole life because of what is out there. Somebody has to stay. Somebody has to keep the salt down and the iron set and pull the foolish ones out of the water when it drives them down to me. I have pulled maybe a dozen out over the years, and I have heard a great many more that I could not reach in time. I asked him why the salt and the iron kept it back when nothing else could. I do not know why, he said. I only know that it does. My grandfather wrote it down. The part of him that came back wrote it down, and his father knew it before him and back and back. Salt in the ground in a ring, iron set under where you sleep, running water you can reach in 3 steps. And cold flame, never a warm fire, because a warm welcoming fire is an invitation, and it will come to the light. These are the things that are true. I did not reason them out. I inherited them, the way you inherit the shape of your own hands. The people who reason things out for themselves are all up there on the high ground now, in the dark, where it keeps them. Keeps them, I said. You keep saying that word. What does it mean? What does it do with them? The old man was quiet for a long time. The fire snapped. Outside, the thing screamed in a child's voice, and we both pretended not to hear it. I do not think it eats them, he said at last. Not the way an animal eats. I have never found a body, not my grandfather, not the ranger, not any one of the people I failed to reach. There is never a body. There is only the pack, set down, the straps undone. I think it takes them into wherever it is that it lives, the place between the woman and the cat, the place the curse made for it. I think it is lonely up there. I think it has been alone for longer than there have been people to remember its name. And I think it is gathering company, one foolish soul at a time, 100 years of company, up in the high dark, all of them walking the circling trails beside it, all of them screaming down the mountain in the voices of people who were once loved. He shook his head slowly. That is what I think. I hope I am wrong. I have hoped I was wrong for 60 years and I have never once managed it. Then it cannot be killed, I said. If it is a curse, and not an animal, it cannot die. There is no end to it. A curse is not killed, he said. A curse is kept. You keep the salt down. You keep the iron set. You keep the foolish off the mountain when you are able, and you pull them out of the water when you are not. And you do it for as long as your legs will carry you. And then you find somebody younger and you teach them to do it after you. That is the whole of it. That is the work. It is not glorious work. No one will ever know that I did it. But somebody has to stand between this mountain and the rest of the world. And a long time ago that somebody became me, the way it had been my father, and his father. All of us named Joseph. All of us keeping the same long watch in the same lonely house. He looked at me then, and for a moment I was afraid of what he might ask. I was afraid he was going to ask me to stay, to take up the watch. And I do not know, even now, what I would have answered, because some sick and exhausted part of me wanted to say yes. The mountain had already taken so much of me that staying felt almost like sense. But he did not ask. He only smiled. A small, sad smile in the firelight. Do not look so frightened, child, he said. I am not going to keep you. You are not made for this, and you should thank God that you are not. You are made to go back down and live among people and grow old in a house with lights burning in the windows. The watch is not for the likes of you. It is only for those of us the mountain has already half taken. It is only for us. He looked at me and his old eyes were wet. How many did you come up with? 6, I said. And how many are standing here now? 2, I said. 3. Me and Robert and you. 2, the old man said gently. I do not count, child. I am already part of this mountain. 2 of you. That is better than most. That is far better than most. We stayed 3 days in the cabin with the old man named Joseph. 3 days, because the thing did not leave. It circled the salted ground every night, and it screamed in stolen voices. And we did not sleep, not really, only fell into thin gray dozes between the screams. The old man did not sleep at all, that I ever saw. He sat by the window with his rifle and he watched, and sometimes he spoke to the thing through the glass, low and steady, words in a language I did not know, and the screaming would stop for a little while when he did. I do not know what he said to it. I did not ask. There are things a man learns over a lifetime on a mountain like that, and some of them are not meant to be carried back down. On the 3rd night, the screaming stopped, and it did not start again. In the gray of the 4th morning, the old man came away from the window for the first time. "It is gone," he said. "Back up high. It has lost interest. They are like that, patient as stone, and then all at once they are bored and they leave. You have got maybe a day, 2 if you are lucky. You take it and you go fast, and you follow the water out, and you do not ever come back to this mountain, either of you, not for any reason. Do you understand me?" We understood. He walked us to the edge of the salted ground at dawn. He pointed the way down along the stream, told us we would reach a logging road by midday and a paved road by dark, that we should flag down anyone we saw and not stop until we were a county away. He gave us his coat and what food he had, and as we left, he caught my arm, the same way the man in the store had caught it a lifetime ago, and he pulled me close. "When you tell this," he said, "and you will tell it, because it will not let you keep silent. It lives in the telling too. That is part of how it goes on. When you tell it, you tell them the truth. You tell them it is real. Some of them will laugh, most of them will laugh, but one of them, somewhere, will be the kind that needs to be told, the proud kind, the kind that has already decided to go up where they have been told not to. Maybe your telling stops one of them, maybe it does not, but you tell it true. You owe that to the 4 you left up there. You tell it true." I have done what he asked. I am doing it now. Robert and I followed the water down. We reached the logging road by midday, just as the old man had said. We reached the paved road by dark, and a man in a truck stopped for us. 2 filthy, half-starved, hollow-eyed men staggering out of the trees, and he drove us to a town and called for help. And that was the end of the mountain, the physical part of it, the part that ends. The other part does not end. We told the truth. We told it to everyone, the rangers, the deputies, the search teams. We told them about the thing that screams, the woman's voice, the trail that ate itself, the friends it took whole into the high dark. They listened with careful, kind, patient faces, and they wrote it all down, and not one of them believed a single word. They sent search teams up. The teams found the meadow and the chimney and our last camp. They found Michael's pack on the ledge, the straps neatly unbuckled. They found nothing else, no bodies, no blood. 4 men do not simply vanish off a mountain, they said, and yet 4 men had. And the official cause of it became exposure and disorientation and an unfortunate decision to split up, a tragedy, a cautionary tale about preparation. They put up a new sign at the trailhead about staying together and staying on marked routes. There is no cabin on any map of that mountain. When I tried to lead a search team back to it, to the old man named Joseph who had saved our lives, we could not find it. We followed the stream up exactly the way we had come down, and there was no cabin, no porch, no salted ground, no old man with a rifle. Robert says it was there. I know it was there, but it is not on the mountain anymore, or it never was in a way the mountain admits to, and I have stopped trying to understand which. Robert does not talk about it. He moved away, far away, to a flat place with no trees, and we do not speak much now. The mountain is between us. It is easier not to look at each other and see it. As for me, I am all right, mostly, in the daylight. It is the nights that are hard, because sometimes on the worst nights, when the wind is moving through the trees outside my window in a certain way, I hear it, the scream, far off. So faint I tell myself I imagine it, a woman screaming, rising and breaking and rising, and every cell in my body wants to go to it, to go and help her. Because surely someone is hurt out there. Surely someone needs me. I have learned to put my hands over my ears. I have learned not to listen. I have learned to remember the old man's words and the dead trapper's words and the storekeeper's words, all of them the same words, passed down the mountain for 100 years. Do not go up. Go down. Always go down to the low water where it cannot follow. And do not, whatever you do, no matter whose voice it borrows, no matter how much you love the sound of it, ever, ever listen to the thing that screams in the hollows. It already knows your name. It is only waiting for you to answer.